Will the hall please come to order? There is a quorum present. Welcome residents and taxpayers, town officials, town meeting members, and interested parties to the third session of 2024 Spring Annual Town Meeting. At this time, is there any town meeting members who have not been sworn in? Would you please rise? After I say the word "I," state your name, then repeat whatever I say. I do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as a town meeting member. According to the Natick Home Rule Charter and bylaws of the town. Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Constitution of the United States. Congratulations. Yes. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, particularly with those in mind serving around the globe on our behalf. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The hall is assembled as follows. Diane Packer, interim town clerk, is to my right. To my immediate left is Cody Jacobs, Finance Committee Secretary. Seated next to Mr. Jacobs is Todd Gillenwater, Finance Committee Chair. Is there someone trying to get my attention while I'm speaking? And seated next to Mr. Gillenwater is Karis North, Town Council. Down in the well tonight, we have Richard Sidney, Clerk of the Select Board, and next to Mr. Sidney, James Erickson, Town Administrator. Please. What? Oh, you changed it? Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. You're not an axe murderer either. You had me on that one. Please remember, you can drink water in the auditorium. No other liquids or food can be consumed in the auditorium. Shut your phones off or mute them or sit on them or please make certain that they don't make those wonderful ringtones during town meeting that interrupt us. We certainly don't want to interrupt speakers. Your e-voting electronic device is already on, so you don't have to turn on, you don't have to do anything with that. Please remember that town meeting members only may sit in the forward center and the left-hand section of the hall. There are 3 town meeting members not seated in those seats. I'll point out 2 on the dais. That is the 2 folks at the Finance Committee desk, and the Select Board clerk is a town meeting member also. There are a number of people who have asked to sit elsewhere in the hall for one reason or another. I will count their hands, but if you're floating around and you're trying to vote during a hand count and you're not in the 2 front sections, I'm not going to count your hand. Your vote will not be counted. Let's see. I have a couple things I want to remind you of. All motions are required to be submitted in writing, and if you folks would insist, if this is expenditure of money, which we will be dealing with a few things, if you folks insist on a detail on that, you may do so and ask that for in writing. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. All persons having a monetary or equitable interest in any matter under discussion at a town meeting, and any person employed by another having such an interest shall disclose the fact of her or his interest or employment before speaking thereon. Any amendment must be provided in writing, and we do really request that you get the copy of any amendments or motions to me, the clerk, and I will forward to town council if need be 48 hours in advance if we can. I'm speeding right through this. Miss Evans, Member Evans, are you going to make the postpone motion? I can't hear what you're saying.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I was proposing to do so when we see where we are at 9 o'clock.
No, okay, I'm thinking of something else. Mr. Sidney, you were going to make this motion. I had the wrong motion in mind. Thank you, Ms. Evans. Mr. Sidney.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Richard Sidney, Precinct 8, and a member of your Select Board. I move to postpone the subject matter of Article 28 to the first order of business following Article 18 on Tuesday, May 7th.
It is moved to vote to postpone subject matter of Article 28 to the first order of business following Article 18 on Tuesday, May 7th. Do we have a second? Mr. Gaff seconds that motion. Do you have that?
No, isn't that the one you sent me?
Yeah, it is the one I did send you. So it's moved by Mr. Sidney, seconded by Mr. Gaff. Mr. Sidney, do you have 2 minutes to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. One of the presenters, Chair Coughlin, is unable to be here tonight, and she has a presentation on the subject matter of Article 28, and she has asked that we hear it on Tuesday so that she can do her presentation.
Further debate on the subject matter of the postponement? Seeing none, you ready to vote this? Jeff, we are. Please vote on the postponement at this time. Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 93 yes, 11 no, 3 abstain. The matter will be heard second on Tuesday, the 7th. I do have one announcement here. The town of Natick is excited to announce that it will again be sponsoring various events, resources, and collaborations in appreciation of National Mental Health Awareness Month. These free events and activities for the Natick community will be held throughout the month of May. The hope is to raise awareness and start community conversations about mental health, to help break the stigma and promote wellness. Throughout the month, Natick will also be sharing resources for those facing mental health challenges. There was a handout at the table. We'll give you more details on that matter. Tonight, I sent you an email a few days ago giving you the lineup for this evening. We do have a resolution which we're going to hear first. Then we're going to hear Articles 12, 15 through 17, 19 through 26, and you just moved 28 to next Tuesday, so we'll hear 18 and 28 next Tuesday. We can do this. First order of business then, therefore, is a resolution. Ms. Kuhn? Member Kuhn? Judy? Do you want to come down front? Sure. Did I send a copy of this, Gloria? I guess I did. Good, thank you. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, and Natick officials. Sorry for my voice, I have some laryngitis. I'm Judy Kuhn, Precinct 8, and a retired town employee, and I am pleased to offer the following resolution. Whereas Ms. Diane Packer's years of service to the town of Natick, first at the Senior Community Center and then as elected town clerk for Natick, shall be recognized by the annual Springtown meeting of 2024. Further, town meeting commends Ms. Packer for her dedication to maintaining the public records of the town, such as vital records, births, deaths, and marriages, open and transparent elections, and for keeping accurate minutes of town meeting, and so many other records which the law requires the town clerk's office to maintain in good order. We wished her well in her retirement in 2023. Therefore, be it resolved that the spring annual town meeting of 2024 thanks Diane Packer for her willingness to serve as interim town clerk and assume once again all the duties of that office. A copy of this resolution, dated the 2nd day of May 2024, is to be included in the minutes of the spring annual town meeting of 2024.
Seconded by? Second. I heard a lot. Ms. Gloff, was that you?
Yes, please.
Very good. Can I suggest waive the reading of the motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sidney, seconded by Mr. Gath. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the reading is waived. All those in favor of the resolution, please raise your hands. All those opposed, it is unanimous.
Thank you. I'm honored, and I'm totally surprised, so thank you very much. It'll probably be the only time I'll be speechless. Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is Article 12. Article 12 is a question with regards to the capital equipment and improvement of the town. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 12, Motion A, as printed on pages 60 and 61 in the Finance Committee recommendation book, in the total amount of $13,750,000, with $7,810,000 sourced from tax levy borrowing and $5,940,000 sourced from water sewer borrowing. And I so move.
Second.
It's moved by Mr. Jacobs, seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. Motion A. Now, are you going to cover all of the motions under this article at this time? Mr. Marshall?
Mr. Moderator, if I could just make a couple of brief comments, and then we can begin with motion A, and then we can.
You want to go
work through.
motion to motion? Very good. Motion A.
Thank you,
Comments?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. First off, I would just like to recognize the hard work of our staff going into preparing this information for all of you. It takes the course of the year to analyze, determine what we need to support the resources within the community so that we can keep them in good working order and give our staff the tools they need to do the work for the community. This evening we have the three motions as mentioned. We've really worked hard the last couple of years to consolidate where possible. So the first motion is borrowing, motion 2 is free cash, and then motion 3 is retain earnings or the free cash of our enterprise funds. And I just want to remind everyone, we have with our vehicle and equipment stewardship or replacement program that we have all of our vehicles and equipment under one item. That has given us the ability the last couple of years with the challenges related to sourcing vehicles. So for instance, if a vehicle we are estimating is the current fiscal year and we can't get our hands on the current fiscal year, the price in the next fiscal year is higher. Town meeting's ability to allow us to have this in one motion has given us the ability to purchase in those instances. So thank you very much. And with that, any questions on motion A?
Debate on motion A. As you see it on pages 60 and the top of page 61. The items that are listed in it, also in the book, are on the screen. Member Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Saul Beaumont, Precinct 10. I have a few questions. One question is, what funds are currently on the books to repair the gazebo in the town common?
To the member's question.
Mr. Moderator, those are through operating funds. We are looking to repair some of those issues, and our Executive Director of Public Works and Facilities is currently working on quotes for the roof to get that work initiated. So we would be doing that in operating funds, not capital funds.
Mr. Beaumont.
I have a couple of other questions, but does that mean I should ask it of someone else? Or can I ask it right here?
You ask all questions
Okay.
to me, and they should be pertaining to the list list that you see under motion A, not any items that would be under motion B or C at this time. So all your questions are about items that are under motion A, correct?
Well, let me ask for some help. I have a question on operating funds, which apparently are not in this list. Will I
That
be
is
able to
correct.
ask it later?
That would be out of order, and this is all capital. This is not operating
Okay.
expenses.
So will I be able to ask it in B and C, or?
No. This is all capital acquisition and improvements. The operational costs were under Article 3,
Okay, thank you.
if I understand your question correctly. Member Weithman?
Bob Whiteman, Precinct 5. Question about the number 4, the MS4 compliance. Just a brief explanation, please, what that is.
To the member's question, Mr. Marshall?
Thank you for the question. The state has regulations that the town has been working to be in compliance with. MS4 is one of those regulations. So we have been doing master planning for a number of years, understanding our stormwater issues. This funding right here will take that master planning work that we've completed and start doing some of that engineering and design work to make improvements in those areas.
To continue?
Follow-up question. So it's basically just, you got to get the stormwater off into the storm drains properly?
To the member's question.
It's improvements to the way it's currently entering our system. And I apologize, I mistook their federal regulations, not state regulations.
Thank you.
Sir. I have Mr. Scott down front here.
Thank you. Roger Scott, Precinct 10. My question is regarding, if you look on pages 84 and 85, you'll see water department truck, two of them actually, one on 84 and 185. And the appropriation request for each is $160,000. Are these pickup trucks, and why so expensive?
I'll allow the question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Would you like me to respond? These are under motion C.
No, just answer it now.
Yep.
Just while he's up and he's asked the question, answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Just do it.
The reason why these vehicles are expensive is these vehicles actually equip the tools when we go out and we complete water breaks. So if you've seen a water main and the valve that's required, it's a big metal tool that we need to get down and twist and open and close those valves. Those are the type of equipment that are on this vehicle. So this vehicle is specialized to be able to carry that. So it requires a specific body that needs to be on it. With most of the vehicles we replace as well. We also replace the plows when they come up at that time because all of our vehicles are involved in our plowing operation.
As well as who determines what the correct prices for these products are? Do you have a committee that determines what?
Are you still talking about the items that are under motion C?
Yes.
I allowed the question. I really shouldn't have. How many more questions do you have about these
This is
items?
it.
This is it? Very good.
This is it.
Why
Okay.
don't you ask your question?
Thank you. So we work with our staff to be able to determine what's needed for the specific equipment that we have. And then we will work with the state bid list and get estimates and quotes for that pricing. With all of the vehicles, we typically have a slight markup. We're getting quotes that we're getting in, I think it's like February we're getting or January we're getting quotes for you. Those quotes are good for 30 days. So by the time we actually get through the action of town meeting and are able to procure these vehicles, we're looking at closer to July. So those prices have typically gone up after that point in time.
Thank you.
So the members that are rising are going to ask questions or debate about the motion A, correct? Very good. I have a gentleman in an auburn-colored shirt, or
Yes, him.
All right, red.
Thanks.
It's
Dom
not red.
Hall, Dom Hall, Precinct 8.
Hall.
I just need someone to walk me through the landfill gas collection. Is that a useful asset that's collected, or is that just sort of pollution control?
Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. So the landfill gas collection is basically taking all of the gases from the capping of the landfill, and it is collecting it, and then it goes off to a flaring station where it is burned. So basically it's controlling everything from the landfill so that it can be managed appropriately.
To continue?
Yep, a follow-up question to that, Mr. Moderator. Have we ever looked at whether or not that methane is an asset that we could use rather than just flare? Or is it just such a small amount that it's not worth it?
To the member's question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Actually, in doing research on this, I was looking back in 1997 when town meeting made a determination about the capping of the landfill and the golf course. And at that period of time, there was a thought that we could use that gas and actually be able to use it for energy. However, upon later determinations, the volume of what was there was just not enough. It was going to be more cost expensive. It was going to cost more to do that than what we would get for it.
Thanks. I have a third landfill question. but it crosses over between A and C, so I don't know if I'm supposed to ask it now, that's to you, Mr. Moderator. Can I ask a question that it touches on A and C, or should I just sit down?
Stick to motion A.
But it's,
That way we won't confuse everybody.
Okay.
That we're voting for something that is not in the part of this motion.
sure.
All right, let's
I'm afraid
stick
I'm gonna
within
get
the
yelled
scope
at,
of the
but-
motion.
So, who's responsible? So, we're asking for funds in A for landfill work. We're asking for funds in C for landfill work under, I guess, the golf course budget. I just need someone to explain to me whose responsibility lies where for that landfill work and how that's determined. And if I can't ask that, I'll just sit down.
You answer the question as asked, please.
And in recognition, I apologize for putting items in both A and C. But regarding that determination, I actually had met with our Public Works Director and our golf course superintendent. We had a conversation based on where those collection vaults were and if there had been any impact from the golf course. So basically what we wanted to do is look at those valves that had been impacted to the golf course and assess a cost to the golf course so they could share in replacing those. So we felt it made sense to hit two different sources for that. I did meet with the Oversight Committee, rightfully so. They had some questions on that, but I think we've had a good conversation with the team to figure out what makes sense.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Pass it to the gentleman that's still standing in the hallway. Name and precinct, please.
Tian Lum, Precinct 9. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just had a question of clarification on the high school athletic field. In the discussion in the FinCom book, there's on page 59, the second bullet, I wasn't sure whether the decision on whether to use artificial turf or grass had already been made.
To the member's question.
Thank you. So it would be the preference to be able to use artificial turf for that field. However, the design and engineering work will help us determine the appropriate solution for that. The reason that the artificial turf is being considered for this area is for a couple of reasons. One is due to the impact of use that takes place there. That field right now currently has some of the higher impact sports, lacrosse, football, ones that are really do a lot of impact drills, which unfortunately has really torn up that field. Due to where that field is situated, it's really hard to grow natural grass on that field. We also have a growing need of activities from our high school programs, not only JV, varsity, and freshman sports, but we're also seeing club sports on the rise. So we need an asset that we can use as much as possible. So having a artificial turf field with lights in that area will really give us the ability to maximize that. However, we need the study to be able to help us determine what the appropriate solution is. But that would be our preference.
Great, thanks. And what would be the best way for the community to give input into the design process?
Marshall?
Thank you. So as we move forward with this, we are certainly happy to have some public forums as we move forward with the design and make sure that the community has an opportunity to provide feedback.
Great, thank you.
Next person seeking the floor. Are you seeking the floor, sir? Okay, up in the back there. Why don't you speak next?
Thank you. Dan Wiener, Precinct 5. Quick question about the building HVAC upgrades. Just reading through this is talking about upgrading the community senior center, but in the bullet before that it mentions that HVAC systems have a typical lifespan of 25 to 30 years, which the senior center is younger than. So just wondering what this consists of.
To the member's question.
Thank you. So unfortunately, this system failed earlier than anticipated, and it was out of warranty.
There you go. Gentleman standing here in the center.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve Merlino, Precinct 3. Just a quick question on the emergency vehicles. I totally understand the costs involved, and I see, police cars, 100,000 miles being replaced. I totally get it. I love our first responders in this town. I'm just wondering about the salvage value of these vehicles and if that number is worked into the budget, or, obviously there's some value left in these vehicles when we retire them, and just whether we auction them off or...
To the member's question.
Thank you. So we do auction off vehicles when we are looking to replace them. Those vehicles that are auctioned off, the funds for that goes into the revolving fund for DPW. We're able to use that in emergency instances. So say we total a police cruiser. Right. Say that cruiser is a few years old. Yeah. We're going to get insurance money for that, sure, but it's not going to be enough to replace that vehicle. So that revolving fund is extremely helpful in those instances.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to come over this side. We have two people standing on. Take the first one.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Victoria Grafflin, Precinct 5. My question is also about the Vehicle Equipment Stewardship Program. I was wondering, when you go out to bid for these vehicles, like the police cruisers, do you use the collective contracts that sometimes are available? Just wondering if you could share some information about that.
To the member's question.
Thank you. So depending on the vehicle, the equipment we're purchasing, sometimes we will bid and sometimes we will use the state contract. There are a couple of benefits for the contract. We usually get discounts on that, so we try to find the best value when we can out there.
Member in the third row down on the left-hand side.
Rebecca Stendahl, Precinct 7. Thank you. I'm looking at the drainage improvements and resiliency. I know flooding has increased significantly, so I'm curious what percentage of the current issues will be covered, because it's a pretty low price tag on that. Does that question make sense?
To the member's question.
I don't need an exact percentage, but...
Could I ask Mr. Spratt to maybe help answer that question?
Maybe he could stand up and get a microphone directed to him. No, we can get a microphone to you. John, you stay. Mr. Marshall, you stay there. Bill?
So I'll answer that a little more generally. We've been experiencing a lot of flooding problems this year. We had an excessive amount of rainfall. So really, obviously, this is not a lot of money. This is just to get started. What we've done this past year is identified common areas that keep flooding over and over and over again. This will allow us design money and also be able to, we could do some of that work ourselves. We just need to find the root causes and then fix the root causes. So there are 2 or 3 in mind that we hope to get solved this year with this money. And really, I'm thinking of this like a stewardship plan, like we do for HVAC and other things in town, that we have to start stewarding our drainage system, which is just not adequate in some areas.
Okay, thank you.
Member Warmington? Right, oh, don't go away.
Hi, Emily Warmington, Precinct 7. Through you, Mr. Moderator, I'm wondering if, as part of our sustainability goals, we looked at hybrid vehicles or zero-emission vehicles for either of the emergency vehicles on page 64, the police cruisers or the new fire car.
To the member's question.
Thank you. So we are planning on having battery hybrid vehicles for those that use regenerative braking to be able to recharge. It also enables us for the engine to be off and not idling. We are exploring the possibility of plug-in hybrids, and there's actually a couple of items that we specifically deferred for this spring town meeting because we didn't feel we had enough information to bring it to town meeting. Those vehicles are specific to inspections and are out of our town hall building, like building, assessors, those departments that have to go out. We've been looking at the possibility of plug-in hybrids for those vehicles.
Thank you. To clarify, these vehicles are battery hybrids, is that?
Correct, yes.
Amazing, thank you.
I've got a question to Ms. North. For the drainage improvements and resiliency, doesn't Section 9 require us to denote the location of where those are supposed, Section 9 of our bylaws, under Article 3, denote the location of where those improvements are going to occur? Or is that for sewerage and water only? Just so that you know, it says any vote of town. I read this today. This is the only reason I'm asking this. I can hear you, but maybe they can't.
Okay, now it's on. For construction or reconstruction, installation or improvement of a public way, a sewerage, or a water facility. Has to specify the location. I don't believe that the drainage improvements fall within those three categories.
But are they in the public way?
It's an improvement of a public way.
Public ways of the town?
It's not the public way that's being improved.
Okay. Thank you. Further debate on the matter? Mr. Devereaux? Is that you? Yeah.
Edward Devereaux, Precinct 8. Just a couple of quick questions. The quickie is, I'm sorry, what is space renewal? We're talking about
States renewal?
Yeah.
To the member's question?
Thank you. Space renewal is related to the insides of our building, so looking at carpets, walls, partitions, things along those lines.
Okay. So it's not you're not renting space, you're renewing them.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Second question is window replacement projects. To what grade level are they? I mean, is this replacing the existing window with the exact same window, or is there any energy gain to be had in upgrading the windows?
To the member's question?
Thank you. So when we upgrade our window systems, we are looking for energy efficiency and upgrades in those windows replacements.
Are you finding it? Sorry.
Yes. So
Okay.
in this specific instance, over at East School are some of the windows that are being replaced. They're basically floor-to-ceiling windows within that, and I believe they're single pane right now. So there's a lot of opportunity in those windows for us to gain efficiencies.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Debate.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Further debate on the matter? Seeing none. These are being funded by borrowing, so it requires a 2/3 vote. What you will be voting on is the motion as it appears on page 60 and the first half of page 61. Please vote at this time. Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 112 yes, 5 no, 0 abstain. Passes by a 2/3 vote. Mr. Jacobs, further recommendation under Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 12, Motion B, as printed on page 74 in the Finance Committee recommendation book in the amount of $500,000 to be sourced from free cash, and I so move.
Second. Moved by Mr. Jacobs, seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. Mr. Marshall.
Ready for questions, Mr. Moderator.
No further overview. Very good. Mr. Alderson, excuse me.
Jeff Alderson, Precinct 9. Question, is the Johnson School playground, for lack of a better location, on 27 included in the playground updates?
To the member's question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and member. So the playground updates are funding that we utilize for the 20 playgrounds townwide. We don't have a specific playground in mind with these dollars. However, if a slide, if a bridge, if a major component within a playground fails, we need that money accessible so we can replace that and don't have to shut down the playground.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Further debate. Seeing none. Oh, we got a taker. Yes, down front here.
Hi, Victoria Grafflin, Precinct 5. Just wondering about the tree inventory and replacement, where it mentions that 30 to 50 risk trees will be removed per year and will be increasing. I think I'm just wondering if the trees that are considered at risk, if you have any details about, whether or not these are truly going to come down and cause a problem, or if it's just, hey, they might be at risk.
To the member's question.
Thank you. So the tree inventory really helps us with that. We're able to do a risk analysis with our trees and make a determination based on their ability. And that gives us the ability to rate those trees and then bring them down when we feel that they are going to be a threat to safety.
So it's at the point of these are an imminent public threat to threat to public safety that they come down?
There are times where they are at risk in their location where their rating might be a little bit lower. However, that risk is higher because of the location of where they are. So, we have a rating system to help us really determine that.
Thank you.
Would you bring the microphone over to the member standing, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Stendahl, Precinct 7. On the same piece of the tree inventory and replacement, I'm just curious where that $40,000, how that compares with previous years. Is that an increase in investment in shade trees, or is it pretty static?
To the member's question.
It has been the same funding we've requested for the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Further debate on the matter? Seeing none. Motion B is being funded with free cash. It will be a majority vote. We'll vote this at this time. Please vote at this time. All set. Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 115 yes, 2 no, 0 abstain. Mr. Jacobs, further recommendation under Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 12, Motion C, as printed on page 79 in the Finance Committee recommendation book, in the total amount of $1,160,000, with $855,000 sourced from water and sewer retained earnings and $305,000 sourced from golf course retained earnings, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jacobs, second by Mr. Gillenwater. A motion as it appears on page 79, the Finance Committee recommendation book. All set, Mr. Marshall? Motion to the floor. Member Meyer, is that you? It is, good. In the rear of the hall, please.
I don't think I'm going to reach it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Andrew Meyer. I reside in the 3rd precinct of Natick. And I have a question about the line item bunker renovation. I'd be curious to know, as a person who has sent a few golf balls into the bunkers of Sassama Trace, what the timing is of the bunker replacement, and will it be necessary to close the course to address all of them at once, or will they be done one at a time? If I could get a little more information about that, please.
Maybe they could fix it so your ball doesn't go in the bunker. To the members' questions.
Thank you. So once we have funding available, we will work with a company to come in and support us throughout that effort. Our intent is to not have to close down the golf course. We might have to redirect some people depending on when we can get someone to come in and support us for that work, but our goal would be to limit the disruption to the golf course as much as possible. Shoulder seasons are great. Unfortunately, with the help that we need sometimes, we aren't always successful in securing that in the months outside of the main golf season.
Just to follow up, would you anticipate the work being done this calendar year, or extending over the winter or next year, or when do you think it might take place?
We would likely be starting the work next year. This will enable us to line it up and start going.
Okay. Debate, sir?
You have the floor.
For those who probably know, and maybe some who don't know, this golf course is a gem, and we are really lucky to have it. I think it competes very well with other golf courses in the area, and as I've noticed a trend for other golf courses to close for real estate development or other purposes, I think more and more people are looking at our golf course to come here, and I think there's an opportunity here to expand it, to grow it, to sell it, and to make more money off of it. I'm encouraged to see that the golf course enterprise funds are being used to go back into what is already, I think, a well-managed and well-maintained amenity. But I will take the opportunity to say I think there are further areas for improvement. I do believe the gazebo up on the hill is scheduled for replacement. I think one good wind and that thing's going to go over. But I would also mention that the parking lot has a tendency to flood when we have a lot of rain, and I would imagine that we might work with the excellent people at DPW Engineering to maybe correct some of those water issues. There's a landscaping area that you see as you go up the hill, which is not very attractive. It does not send a very good message. I think that could easily be improved and really be an advertisement, welcome to our course. I think there are 2 holes that would really benefit safety-wise from having some steps installed after hole number 3 and hole number 8 for those of us who walk and enjoy the exercise. Those hills are pretty steep, and I'm concerned that somebody's going to fall one day and blame the course for it. So I think that those areas could be addressed. And, well, my last lifelong dream while I'm sharing is a snack shop on top of the hill where you might be able to sit on a bench and watch people come through and maybe even enjoy an adult beverage, which I think would be very reasonable for the golf course and would only help it raise money and be more competitive as we compete with other golf courses in the area. So I'm an enthusiastic supporter of the money being spent on the money going back into the course. I hope that we will see more things like this in the future, because there's no reason not to invest in it. It's a real gem, and we're lucky to have it. Thank you.
Very good. Further debate on the items under motion C? Seeing none, we'll vote these at this time. Requires a majority vote. Please vote on the matter now. Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 105 yes, 2 no, 0 abstain. Passes by majority vote. That concludes our work under Article 12. We have, you have concluded business under 13 and 14. So we'll move on to Article 15. On page 97, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation under Article 15? Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Moderator, before I read the recommendation, I just want to clarify that this is one of those articles where the quantum of the vote required for this is a majority vote, but in the book it says requires a 2/3, but it's actually a majority vote for this one. Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 15 as printed on page 97 in the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jacobs, second by Mr. Gillenwater. The motion as it appears on page 97. To speak to the matter, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. For the record, Jamie Erickson, Town Administrator. There's some great information in the FinCom books. I'll be brief. This is related to Article 42 of the town bylaws. It deals with licenses. There's 2 sections. This is only impacting one of the sections, Section 1. And in brief, it's really just to ensure that we're compliant with MGL. This must have been adopted at some point, and then MGL probably changed, and we're just trying to basically remove that inconsistency. It's not necessary to have it in our local bylaws the way it was, so we're actually asking to basically remove the language and just make sure that and we have to follow MGL anyway, so we're just trying to make sure that we follow MGL just by following MGL rather than having it also in our bylaws. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, just for clarity, Article 42 deals with, this section anyway, deals with the storage of fuel oil. So we do have our fire chief here tonight if you have any questions about storing fuel oils, but hopefully that's not the question because this is really just about our regulation governing those. Thank you.
Very
Sorry.
good.
Yep.
On the matter before us, Mr. Connolly.
Paul Connolly, Precinct 6. Mr. Moderator, I was a little confused by the opportunity to do something with this wording. It seems that at one time we probably had a initial wording that talked about these fuel oils, etc., like that. And then later on, we basically added something to it about transient vendors. And so now we end up with the first part is gone, and we end up with only transient vendors. And I kind of wondered, are there other licenses that we are supposed to be describing under this title of licenses? Are there other licenses that we issue that are supposed to go in here, or what? That was a long question.
To the member's question?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There are certainly other licenses that the town issues mostly through the select board or some other boards and committees, but primarily through the select board. Whether they should be placed into Article 42 of the general bylaws is not something that we studied as part of this particular proposed amendment. One thing that we will be looking at, and probably partnering in with the Charter and Bylaw Review Committee, is looking at some of those questions.
Mr. Moderator, I think the town administrator has a good suggestion. We might ask that committee to clean up and see exactly what we have there. Essentially, we're dropping out the most important one that we have, and the other one is just left there. So it's good to go, but it should be fixed later, just to improve the quality of the particular article. Thank you very much.
Further debate? Ms. Hannah? Member Hannah?
Thank you. Sarah Hannah, Precinct 8. I apologize if I'm misreading something, but it says that the fuel oil license is issued by the select board and the annual registration is done by the clerk. Are we deleting the part where the initial license gets issued? Or I apologize, I think I must be missing something, but could you clarify how that works?
Thank you to the question. Essentially what we're trying to do is eliminate, our current bylaw is inconsistent with MGL. So by removing the language in our current bylaw, we're actually following our current process, which is consistent with MGL. In brief, our fire department handles really the inspections on an annual basis. I'm looking to Chief Fursky to nod. Yes, and the licenses are really a formality that's handled through the clerk's office. There is an initial license, I believe, from the select board technically, but it's really mostly handled as an administrative matter annually per MGL.
Okay.
To continue?
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it was clarifying who actually issued the first when you get the license. So I think I understand now. Thank you.
Very good. Further debate on Article 15? Seeing none, we'll vote this at this time. It does require a majority vote. Please vote on the matter now. Vote is closed. Tally of the vote is 114 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain. Next order of business is Article 16. Article 16 is a question with regards to transfer of property, specifically 99 South Main Street, Johnson School. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, quick note on this one as well. The book on page 99 says that this requires a majority vote, but that's incorrect. It requires a 2/3 vote, as the slide says. The Finance Committee recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 16 as printed on page 99 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second. Moved by Mr. Jacobs, seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. The motion as it appears on page 99. To speak to the matter, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As with the last article, there's a lot of good information in the Finance Committee book. In brief, this is basically the final step in a process of the Johnson School that was largely initiated through the school committee and the school committee process. This is really just the final step in that process, since at the end of the school year, the school will no longer be used as a school. The next step, as has been followed with many of the other schools that have been closed through the years, such as the East School most recently, is to transfer the care, custody, and ownership from the school committee to the select board. Happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Ms. North. Could you give us the whole, let's say, a summary of the actual action being taken under this article, please?
Certainly, Mr. Moderator. So this article is about transferring land between town boards as authorized under the general laws, Chapter 40, Section 15A. The decision to stop using the Johnson School and to transfer the property is solely within the province of the school committee, and that's already happened. And that was not something town meeting can review or take action upon. And under the general laws, Chapter 71, Section 68, a school committee has general charge of school buildings, which includes when it ceases and what to do with the building, including transferring to another board. So under Chapter 40, Section 15A, a 2/3 vote of town meeting is required to transfer a parcel between two town boards, and that's the question before town meeting tonight.
Okay. Now, I get to rule on the scope of discussion. So, to be clear, I am going to hopefully keep the conversation focused on the transfer process and the transfer only from the school department to the select board. Okay? This is about the care, custody, and control of that building. It is not about the use of the building. It is not about the zoning of the building. It's not about the ADA. What else did I read online? The ADA improvements that this must encounter. All of the other, let's say, rumors that are out there about this building. This is not about that. It's not what you're being asked. So if it's not what you're being asked, it's not within the scope of the motion, nor within the scope of this discussion. You are forewarned. Mr. Alderson, you have the floor.
Jeff Alderson, Precinct 9. I have been forewarned. My question, sir, is will this transfer act from the school committee to the board of the select board be looked at unfavorably in any future grant application, process, or action when we make an appeal to the MBSA, if I'm getting the acronym right? MSBA.
That's a fair question. Does the superintendent of schools want to, or someone from the Natick Public Schools want to respond to that? Superintendent? Thank you.
Bella Wong, Superintendent of Schools. We've actually recently submitted a statement of interest to the MSBA on behalf of Memorial School, and in that we noted there's there are questions about closures or consolidations or things that we did for fiscal reasons, and so we did cite the closure of Johnson due to the enrollment decrease overall. So it's actually embedded in our application, and it actually possibly supports the application for the Memorial School, because when you close the school, due to decreasing enrollment, it does increase enrollment at the other schools, at least temporarily till things ease out. So it actually supports that application by stating that. It also supports the application because it shows that the town made a difficult decision to do that, to close that school, and it's sort of a overall indication that the town is thinking through thoughtfully about the available resources and seeking support of the state for a possible project. But I don't think it hurts that application. It may actually support it.
Thank you very much. To continue?
Second question, corollary to that, if town meeting does not vote favorable action on this motion, will it have a negative or any material impact on future MSBA grant applications or process?
Do you want to address that? It might be a little hypothetical, but...
I'm sorry, could you is it okay?
Yeah, could you repeat the question?
If town meeting does not vote favorably on this motion, will it have any material impact, positively or negatively, on any future action grant application in front of MSBA from Natick?
I don't think so, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gentleman in the walkway.
Dominic Hall, Precinct 8, through you, Mr. Moderator. Could I get a clarification on exactly what is being transferred under this proposal? It's clearly the building, but how does the land factor into that? I mean, is that a nuance that matters at all? I'm just curious to is this just the building, or is the building and the property?
Fair question. What's the scope of the property being transferred?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and great question. It's the building and the grounds, 99 South Main Street, sorry. So it's the entirety of the property.
That's right. Why does this have to happen? I understand that it's a part of a process, but I don't understand the pros, maybe not the pros and cons, but literally what changes except for just a shifting of liabilities on balance sheets. Is that all we're talking about? Question. Sorry.
Wasn't this an action of the school committee?
Correct. The process under...
Yeah. So maybe someone from the school committee answer that question? Or the Natick Public Schools? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Matthew Gillis, Assistant Superintendent for Finance. So when you stop using a building as a school, the school's committee and the school department would still be responsible for the space. And it couldn't be used for something else. So the legislature, in its wisdom, years and years ago, decided to have those things separate. And when you stop using the building as a school, typically the school department turns it over to the town so it can be repurposed for some other type of use, the property and the land. And to the earlier question about application to MSBA, MSBA has not really supported renovating or funding 2 classroom per grade, 2-section schoolhouses. So I don't think it's going to impact negatively our application for future projects there as well. I live in a town of Dedham, and they've been trying to consolidate with a tough struggle of getting small schools to merge together, and because MSBA doesn't fund really small projects. They want an economy of scale that building doesn't offer. Thank you.
To continue?
Thank you. That answered my question. And just my last question through you, Mr. Moderator, and I think I know the answer, but I'd like to clarify. To sell the property at market, does it have to be shifted to the town? Meaning it can't be sold out of the school? if it's on the school's balance sheet.
Ms. North?
To dispose of the parcel, if that were to happen, they would have to go through the select board.
Excellent. Thank you.
In debate? No? Okay. I think I saw Mr. Devereaux next, and then we'll have Member Collins.
Just quickly, the land for the school was donated some time ago, possibly by somebody named Johnson. I wonder, are there any continuing thoughts or rights with that donation that is known that might affect future uses and naming of anything that went in there? Just curious.
Would any bequeath or anything be issued in the transfer? I'm going to focus it on the transfer only, okay? Because all other things are different. So only in the transfer, Ms. North.
I'm not aware of any impediments.
Yep. Okay. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Member Collins?
Thank you. Kathy Collins, Precinct 9.
Do you want to sit down, Kathy?
I would appreciate that.
Would you?
Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
I also sit on the school committee. I want to remind folks that we passed budgets last Thursday at this time. Care, custody, and control means responsibility, a responsibility that is nowhere funded in the school budget, and there's no extra money in the school budget to cover something. So this is following state law, and this is financially the best way to proceed for the town. So I encourage you all to vote for transfer. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Someone else stood up. Was it Member Sullivan? Did you? Okay, very good. Over here, yes. Member in the center.
Hi, I'm Mary Staley, Precinct 8. A question through you, Mr. Moderator. Considering Chapter 40, Section 15A, Mass General Law states that we can, by a 2/3 vote, transfer the control of land for another specific municipal purpose, would this motion, if approved by town meeting, have to go to the state legislature similarly to current bills from Gardner, which is 84589, and Andover S2581, which are transferring school land for general rather than specific municipal purpose?
Ms. North, do you want to respond to at least the legal matter? I'll respond to what I think the scope is.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. While the state law says another specific municipal purpose, simply transferring between the school committee and the select board is specific enough for the general laws, and there is case law that supports that.
Right. Ditto.
Okay. In debate, if I may. The land in question has been used as has been a site of a school for over 150 years. And this state law, as it's worded, understanding that there are options for the select board to not provide a specific purpose, but in that law, it does suggest that the select board could suggest a specific purpose for town meetings review and 2/3 vote approval for future use. So I'm viewing this as town meetings opportunity to have a say over what this is used for in the future. And by voting no, we can preserve this role for town meeting and can eventually evaluate the specific future use of the land and make sure it aligns with the town values and vision, like the school property has for the last 150 years. Thanks.
Bring the microphone down to Mr. Colburn, please. Mr. Colburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dirk Coburn, Precinct 4. With regard to what was said by a previous speaker, town meeting will have all kinds of opportunity. Anything that's going to be done with this property will require funding, and town meeting will have to fund it. Many purposes require town meeting to actually vote for the purpose. What we're voting for here is to name somebody responsible to steward the asset until the purpose is determined. And right now we have a void in the responsible party. We've got a school committee that has determined that this is surplus and that they do not have budget to maintain it. And we have a select board that does not yet have the legal right to maintain it. Let's get them the right to maintain it and to steward our asset. And town meeting will have plenty of opportunity to weigh in on what this property gets used for in the future.
Thank you, sir. Further debate on the matter before you, Article 16? Seeing none, we'll put this to a vote at this time. Again, it does require a 2/3 vote. Bless you. Please vote at this time. Tally is 98 yes, 14 no, 3 abstain. Passes by a 2/3 vote. Next order of business is Article 17. Article 17 is another amendment to the Natick bylaws. Article 10. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, quick note that one also has a misprint on the quantum of the vote. It says requires a 2/3 in the book, but it actually only requires a majority. The Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 17 as printed on page 101 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second.
It's moved by Mr. Jacobs, second by Mr. Gillenwater. The motion as it appears on page 101 of the Finance Committee recommendation book. To speak to the matter, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This article really is a housekeeping measure to update a table that is part of the general bylaws under the select board section. There's a table in there. We're going to be back probably with more housekeeping measures because there's other things on the table that need to be updated. But this is really relevant because just recently, the Sustainability Committee, our talented Sustainability Committee, sort of dissolved and was not really replaced, but a new net zero committee was created to help advance the town's goals towards net zero. This is really just reflective of that. That work was all done, that committee dissolution and then creation was completed at the select board level because these are select board created and appointed committees, or one is no longer there and then one was added. So really this is a housekeeping measure to make our bylaws consistent with the actions of the select board. Happy to answer any questions.
For your debate, Member Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Linehan, Precinct 6. The process questions, I guess it would probably be to you. The question is, if the bylaws say that there is a committee that the selectmen should appoint, et cetera, isn't the select board subject to the bylaws, and that the bylaws should be changed before the select board takes action? Or can the select board, in this case, it's not a big deal, but could the select board create all kinds of committees? And I mean, it seems like it's kind of backwards.
Now, I'm not going to judge the wisdom of the select board. It's not my job. But Ms. North, is there any problem with the select board, let's say, empowering a committee and then coming back and changing the zoning bylaw? Does that affect that committee that they have empowered? I think not.
No, there's no impediment, and under Section 2 of Article 10, appointments, the Select Board may also make such other appointments as may be provided by town meeting or by their own vote.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Debate on the matter? Seeing none. This is a majority vote. Time for coffee? Yeah. Time for bed. We'll vote this at this time. Please vote no. Voting is closed. The tally of the vote is 113 yes, 3 no, 0 abstain. Now, you might remember we moved Article 18 to the 7th. So we're going to pass over that at this time. And we'll get right into Article 19, which is a question with regards to, looks like a home rule petition, yeah, with regards to the employment of a particular officer on the police force. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, just to clarify, this one does require a majority vote, as it says on the slide. And the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 19 as printed on page 107 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jacobs, seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. Motion as it appears on page 107. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, town meeting members. This request is really for extending one of Natick's talented detectives, Officer Haswell. As some may know, under Mass General Law, police officers in the state of Massachusetts are required to retire at the age of 65. And that's really the law. Ways around that are to seek a home rule petition like the one before you tonight on an individual by individual basis to seek to extend that. In this case, we had Detective Haswell, who is a longstanding member of our police force who provides a lot of great experience as well as mentorship to newer police officers coming into the department, who has asked to extend his retirement date by a few years. And the police chief, myself, and the select board have all absolutely endorsed that request and are seeking town meeting's request to submit a home rule petition. Because it's in Mass General Law, it has to be done through a home rule petition at the State House level. And that is what is before you tonight. The request specifically is to extend the retirement date from the age of 65 to the age of, from the age of 65 until reaching the age of 68. So for a year, for a period of 3 years. Happy to answer any questions. And I believe I see Detective Haswell in the audience tonight as well.
There actually was a question that was interesting at the Finance Committee, and I want to make certain that everyone hears the answer. And Ms. North, you and I spoke about this. If this passes this evening and it goes to the general court and they act as they most do normally on a home rule petition, meaning to say it languishes for a while, and they pass it beyond, or they don't pass it upon Mr. Officer Haswell's 65th birthday or when he has to retire. What happens between that period of time when he is under the current law has to retire and this actually gets passed? Is it retro? Can you give us a sense of what would occur?
Great question. In the absence of a special act, he would be required to retire.
Okay. All right. Good enough. So we'll have the select board rush us in and get it
That's
under
our intent,
special
yes.
section. The matter is to the floor. I think I see a hand over here. Mackenzie? Could you please rise? It does make it a little easier for me to see you.
Donna McKenzie, Precinct 8. I rise in strong support of this motion. Detective Haswell, our #1 officer, has an incredibly long-standing history with the town, as Jamie explained, and I trust the select board and I trust others who are vetting this to be able to determine. And when I have the privilege of hearing Judy Collins recently at TCAN, she said, she just turned 85 today, but she said 84 is the new 27. And everybody ages differently, right? And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the well-being and health of Detective Haswell. And our town would be so fortunate to have his continued service. So I strongly urge you to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Member Poliandri?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Simone Poliandri, Precinct 6. And I want to premise this by saying that I support passing this article. My question is just a clarification. I understand that if this were to pass, the pension benefit will not carry over to the years that remain. And does the law prevent also other benefits from being carried over, for example, health insurance?
Good question. To the member's question?
Do you mind if I defer to Ms. North?
Go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. He would still have the regular benefits as an employee or under the collective bargaining agreement under which he's working. It's simply that pension is a whole separate law and scheme, right, and this can't override the pension law.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Further debate under the matter? Member Friswell?
Just to get us, Don Friswell, Precinct 9, just to get a sense of the urgency, what month will Detective Haswell turn 65?
Anybody know?
I don't ask questions when people are of a certain age.
What is the retirement date, month? October?
October.
Thank you, officer.
Okay, thank you. Happy birthday in advance, John.
I see another member seeking the floor. Name and precinct, please.
Ed Doherty, Precinct 10. I have no problem with this specific act tonight. I just don't want it to affect the town going forward. So 2 questions. One, does this put us in a legal situation that if a different police officer requests this, that we would be subject to being sued or something to that effect? Question.
To the member's question, I don't know how you can answer that one, actually. Isn't that kind of hypothetical and it's a what if?
It's very much a what if. Every factual situation is different and has to be evaluated differently. So I don't think it would create precedent that would put the town in any weaker position.
Okay, I trust the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Okay, very good, sir. Further questions? Member Jacobs?
Sorry, I just had one quick question. I was curious about the language in regard to a previous speaker's question about how this interacts with the CBA that's in place. So it says that it continues until the date of his retirement or the date he is relieved of his duties by the select board at their discretion. But of course, like the CBA places limits on that discretion, and also there's like an arbitration process and all kinds of things like that. So I'm wondering if this overrides that or how that would interact with the CBA.
To the member's question, is that?
Yeah, the employment, this would override the CBA, and just because you're under a CBA doesn't mean your employment is guaranteed. So I don't see any concerns.
Thank you.
Good. Further debate? Seeing none, we'll put this to a vote. It does require a majority vote. Please vote on the matter now. Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 108 yes, 3 no, 2 abstain. Matter passes by a majority vote. Good luck. Thank you. Before we get into the zoning issues, Member Evans, for what purpose do you seek the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Terry Evans, Precinct 7, and a member of the Planning Board. We're coming into a series of zoning articles, 2 of which are significantly more complex than others. For town meeting members, I would like to make a motion to postpone consideration of Articles 21 and 23 until Tuesday, May 7th. And if seconded, I'll speak to it.
Second. Who said the second over here? Ms. Sidney? Mr. Sidney? 21 and 23. So the motion is postpone consideration of Articles 21 and 23 until Tuesday, May 7th.
Yes, that's correct.
It'll actually be the second order of business and third order of business because we already have the 18, excuse me, the fourth. We have 18 and 28 before it. So third and fourth.
Thank you. And
do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, please. Yeah. So by explanation, many members of town meeting have been through the iterative process that is the updating and clarification of the zoning bylaws. These two articles, if you've looked at the warrant articles in your books, you'll see are among the more complex in presentation, although fairly straightforward in terms of objective, of clarity, and consistency for the documents. We would rather take that up at a time when that allows for extended discussion. There are presentations that the town meeting will be seeing or hearing on Tuesday from the Community and Economic Development Director and others. There are videos which you may have had a chance to read or to see that the moderator has sent around. Just want to make sure that we have enough time to do this without running up against the clock this evening.
Thank you. Further debate on the matter? Member Gillenwater.
Just a quick note in debate or as information, the videos which were just mentioned are also on the Finance Committee website. So there's a couple of videos on various aspects of 21 and 23 if you want to get a jump on studying for our next meeting. Thank you. Highly recommend listening to the videos. If you've got an hour or 2 hours to do so, do it. It will help immensely. Okay, we'll vote this to postpone consideration of Article 21 and 23 until May 7. Jeff? Ready? No? This is the one I had asked you to kind of hold in case we need it. Right. Please vote on the matter now. Yeah, could you change that from 28 to 21 and 23? Please. That is it. You did have it. Please vote on that matter now.
Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 104 yes, 4 no, 0 abstain. The motion prevails. We will take up at this time Article 20. Article 20 is a question with regards to expedited permitting. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 20 as printed on page 109 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jacobs, second by Mr. Gillenwater. The motion as it appears on page 109 in the Finance Committee handbook. To speak to the matter, Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator, Amanda Loomis, Director of Community Economic Development. Article 20 is relative to Mass General Law, Chapter 43D, expedited permitting. What this is a program established by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to help promote Massachusetts communities being ready and able to permit projects through a streamlined, clear, and transparent manner. 43D has been around for quite a long time. There are approximately 96 communities that have already adopted at least one priority development site. So here in Natick, what we're going to do is look to designate 2 different areas within the Golden Triangle. But the objective of this is to actually allow us to seek priority consideration when we go for state funding. So that would be Mass Works, different types of funding that has all been consolidated under the Community One Stop for Growth grant opportunities. Another one is to establish a clear and transparent permitting process, but then also this provides us an opportunity to elevate our level of Mass Bio Ready from currently bronze to platinum. This is the only item that we're actually missing to elevate us in that status. And then also increase visibility of Natick through the Commonwealth services. So through 43D, we actually get promoted on the state's website as being a 43D expedited community. We also can promote through different avenues as well. So really what we're going to be doing is, on the next slide, if you could flip, is designating Sherwood Plaza area. So this is Sherwood Plaza where Starbucks, Dick's Sporting Good, all the way over to where the former David Bridal was. So as you can see, we're also going to be rezoning 3 Dean, which is that sliver parcel, which was the old travel lodge that's being raised at this time and is going to be a new Abbey Labs 3. This also includes LA Fitness, which is in the rear of Sherwood Plaza, and then also Abbey Labs 2, which is in the rear of Sherwood Plaza. These are currently zoned commercial and industrial. 43D does not touch the zoning. This is really just a permitting process where the town is making a guarantee that we will grant permits within 180 days unless the applicant requests an extension of time or there's something that we don't foresee. We can actually stop the clock on that, but it has to be for good reason, not just because we don't want to review. So that's one parcel or parcels that we are going to be designating. And the next slide. The next one is the Cloverleaf Plaza, which is the entire plaza in its entirety. Both of these landowners are both on board, and they are willing to sign the applications that we would then petition to the state. Next slide, please. In the next slide, this is just looking at what the town has actually adopted for our long-range plans, and this is consistent with those long-range plans. So Natick 2030 is the town's master plan, and we really want to promote the development and marketing of Natick as an economic hub for Metro West. So that is what Chapter 43 does, but it also helps support those large scale underutilized sites. So just because you designate something as 43D doesn't mean that you're going to see development, but it provides an opportunity for development to happen in a clear, concise manner. Also, in the Natick Economic Development Study and Action Plan, one of the goals was marketing and outreach. This is something that we can do and harness the Commonwealth's resources to help promote Natick, but then also expand business attraction and retention. So we don't want to just attract businesses, we also want to retain them, and through this process, we can then do that. So that is the summary of Chapter 43D in Article 20.
Excellent. To speak to the matter, debate the matter, Member Griesmer?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul Griesmer, Precinct 7. I have a couple questions. In the Finance Committee book, it says that the 180 days would be the time period for a decision, not necessarily a positive decision, but just that a decision be reached. But in the presentation 5 minutes ago, it was we would be granting permits within 180 days. I'd like clarification as to which it is. Is it a decision or is it granting?
To the member's question.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, it is a granting of a decision. So that can be a positive decision, a decision with conditions, or it can be a denial.
A follow-up question. Expedited permitting, there are many permits, building permits, fire marshal permits, special permits, Conservation Commission, wetlands permits. There can be any number of permits. Does this expedited permitting apply to all of them?
Through you, Mr. Moderator? No, this is just planning board permits, so it's a special permit for special permits and site plan review. It does not have anything to do with the building permits or conservation.
All right. My last question is the 180-day time frame. The planning board has any number of items that is on its agenda with other applicants who would not necessarily be part of the expedited process. If a gold standard or what new permit application in this area comes in, does that bump the other applicants, or does it just force the planning board to work harder and have more meetings?
To the member's question?
Through you, Mr. Moderator. So this does not bump other projects because all projects are actually equally important for the town. And we want to make sure that although we are expediting the process, we are conducting a thorough review. So what this actually does is our commitment to these two parcels is to help them prepare applications that are ready for review by the planning board so that when it comes before the planning board, they're already kind of rolling. So that's reviewed by the development review team, which is a staff kind of review, in addition to having a list of what they need. So it really is giving them the answers. With that being said, just because we are designating two parcels, everyone should actually have the opportunity to get that same type of review.
Thank you very much.
Yes, in the left-hand front section.
Hi, thank you. Victoria Grafflin, Precinct 5. I just have a couple of questions, and I think actually at least one of them was already answered. So thank you. For the expedited review time, does that, in the experience of maybe other communities, does that in any way impact the opportunity for public hearings and public input?
To the member's question.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. No, actually, if anything, it is an opportunity to strengthen the public outreach as well. But through Mass General Law, all projects have to have opportunity for members of the public to speak. So that would not be decreased.
And then second question, I noticed that the slide mentions cultivating 21st century companies, and I'm making a guess that some of this has to do with biotechnology and biolabs. Is there, I guess, just given the potential controversy sometimes over that type of use, has there been any? Are there other types of industries? Has there been any comment on, what it seems like the potential uses for these parcels would be?
Through you, Mr. Moderator. So presently, the Cloverleaf Plaza is at full occupancy. So at this time, they are not foreseeing any change in their current plan, other than potentially having electric charging stations within their parking lot. In terms of Sherwood Plaza, we have been in conversations with the landowner, and they are working to develop a master plan for their entire plaza. So that is something that we would be reviewing as well with them, because we've established those relationships with those two landowners, so we would know what was coming down. In terms of 43D, although it does kind of say life sciences, that's not the only type of industry that we would see. We do know that for every one life science industry that does come in, there's actually 5 amenity businesses that come in around it because they provide resources to those employees and employers.
Thank you.
Further debate? Member Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mike Linehan, Precinct 6. If we could have the Sherwood Plaza slide put up. A question on the Sherwood Plaza slide. It looked like, I mean, that whole area is a sort of a reasonable, maybe different ownership, but the Pet World building is excluded. It looks like it's excluded. It's carved out at the top, upper right-hand corner. Obviously, the fire station would not be included. Yep. But the black building and the parking area behind it is not. Is that simply because it's a different owner? Or because it seems like from a long-term perspective, it would make sense that that entire area would be. So the question is, why is that excluded?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Moderator. So the plaza, or the black roof that you're referring to, that is the former Pet World. Has recently gone through the planning board process to become Town Fair Tire. So at this time, we did not include it because it was a different landowner. But it doesn't mean that we can't come back at a later time to include them. But it just means that at this time, they are not included. And when I say not included, for the town to add parcels to the 43D program, we would have to come back to town meeting.
That was my thought. That's going to be Town Fair Tire, so it'll free up the other building. Okay, thank
you. Member who has risen over here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nicholas Hoey, Precinct 4. I just wanted to ask a question through you. It seems that the couple of parcels here that are included are mainly retail parcels, and I'm curious as to why the Natick Mall wasn't included when you brought this forward.
To the member's question.
Yep, through you, Mr. Moderator. So we have had conversations with the Natick Mall, MathWorks, and a lot of the other landowners within this area. And at this time, these were the 2 parcels that the landowners were both willing to sign the documentation. So that is the only reason why the Natick Mall did not want to move forward at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Member Devereaux.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Edward Devereaux, Precinct 8. The photo of the Cloverleaf Plaza, is that accurate? Does it include all of the land in that photo?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, yes. That is the Cloverleaf and also the parking lot, which is the only land that that landowner owns.
Okay. In this version, I see the blue outline. In my version, I don't think there was a blue outline, so that's a little clearer. Thank you.
Seeing no further debate on Article 20, we'll vote this matter now. Please vote at this time. Bless you. No, it's a majority vote. Yeah. Tally of the vote is 109 yes, 4 no, 1 abstain. Per your vote, we're going to jump to Article 22. Question about off-street parking and loading requirements. Is amending the zoning bylaws. Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 22 as printed on pages 137 and 138 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jacobs, seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. The motion as it appears on page 137. Is that it? Yes. Motion A. On motion A. You speak to the whole article?
Yeah.
You have two motions, correct?
I believe it's one.
It says motion A here.
It does have two motions.
And then you have motion B in here.
Yep.
Is there some reason why this is divided? Or is that?
It was just that it was two different sections, the bylaw.
Okay. What did the Finance Committee intend to do here? What did you folks vote? You folks vote one motion?
I believe we voted it. We voted one motion. I believe we voted.
See how it says motion, and then it says motion A, and then motion B after it?
I'd have to check the minutes to be sure, but I believe that we voted it as one. I believe we voted it all together unanimously, but I'd have to check the minutes to be sure.
So the correct language would, if you remove the motion A and motion B, would be the appropriate motion complete under the one main motion. Is that correct?
Yep.
Does everybody see that? We're good with that? Without objection, we'll remove the text that says motion A and the text that says motion B, and we'll have one motion. And that's what you intended, Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Gillenwater, when you moved it and seconded it?
Yes.
Okay, we got a double yes at one time. Okay, so that's what we're going to do to expedite this and to clarify it. And you're going to speak to the whole thing at this time, Ms. Loomis. You have the floor.
All right, through you, Mr. Moderator, Amanda Loomis, Director of Community Economic Development. So Article 22 is more of a cleanup article. So back in 2008, town meeting actually voted to amend the zoning bylaw to include tables 1, incremental parking credit schedule, which is shown in Roman numeral 5D3, and also add table 2, incremental parking schedule, section Roman numeral 5D5, basically to allow for a mitigation to be collected for off-street parking in lieu of creating the parking spaces. There is a 3% annual increase that takes place unless the planning board holds a public hearing and makes a modification to that annual 3% increase. So the objective is to actually remove the annual increase, ensure the bylaw actually reflects the correct amount, establish a value that reflects the cost to actually construct a parking space. So what we're doing is setting a fixed incremental parking credit schedule mitigation amount that does not increase annually. So if you go to the next slide. And the reason why we need to actually establish a fixed amount that does not increase annually is because since 2008, there has been approximately 5 times that the increase has occurred. However, the bylaw has not changed to reflect that annual increase because only town meeting can vote to amend the zoning bylaw. So therefore, as it increased, it did not get amended. So therefore, by removing that 3% annual increase, it will be the set number. Also, understanding that it did increase several times, we wanted to have the number that actually reflects the cost to construct a space, which is approximately $10,000 to $14,000 for a surface, $35,000 to $50,000 for a structured parking space. So therefore, if you go to the next slide, what we've done is remove the 3%, which is the language at the bottom of the table, and then also increase the fees to more accurately reflect an actual cost of construction. So that is all we're doing, is just cleaning it up to actually reflect what is and what is not. And so that is it.
All set? Good. Debate on the matter. Mr. Member Poliandri?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Simone Poliandri, Precinct 6. Just a clarification, since we're voting the book and I'm looking at the book, the presenter says that this was the bylaw, section 5D3, but the book says, and also there says section 4, the Roman number. I just want to make sure that we vote or we amend the correct bylaw. Is it 5 or 4?
Ms. North?
Bylaw.
So am I.
Yeah, no, I saw. I just want to find the bylaw. Where's my- Mr. Moderator, there's apparently a Scrivener's error in the motion. It is 5-D3, Table 1, and 5-D5, Table 2. Correct. The warrant is correct.
So the motion is incorrect. Okay, so the Roman numeral 4 should read Roman numeral 5, V. In each instant, it appears in the book, in the motion.
Correct. I find 4 instances.
I've got 3 so far. Yeah. Yeah, all of the Roman numeral 4 should be Roman numeral 5, V. on. That's part of the motion, so it's got to read right. Does everybody see what's happening? I appreciate you
All set.
seeing that. Good eye. Need you to proofread. Very good. Without objection, we will make those changes. Member Meyer?
Thank you. Andrew Meyer, Precinct 3, member of the Planning Board, and member of a planning board in 2008 when this passed, so I'm feeling rather nostalgic. This is a useful thing to have on the books in the case when a developer were to come in front of the planning board and let's say they had to come up with, say, 9 parking spaces for a project and there was only 8 available. They could purchase or donate using this mitigation and come up with the extra parking space so that a project could potentially go forward. So the concept is quite good. Unfortunately, there was this 3% automatic increase that had to be stopped every year if we did not want it to increase. So it was sort of unlike anything else we have in the bylaw, and I thought it was rather bad policy to have to vote to stop something. Unfortunately, these spaces have been used very infrequently over time, just once that we know of. So I do believe that there may come a time and a day when it is used, but it has not been overly used, and so every year we sort of have to remember to prevent this increase from happening. So this is a good cleanup. It'll allow the amount of money for these mitigation parking spaces to be static. They can be increased in the future if the market demand necessitates it. So this is a good change. I'm speaking in favor of it. Thank you.
Very good. Further debate? Member Ostroff.
Josh Ostroff, Precinct 6, and a member of the then Board of Selectmen in 2008 when I worked on this with the previous speaker to bring it to town meeting. And so it was part of a series of reforms that we did to try to help address parking capacity issues, spur economic development. It was done collaboratively with Natick Center Associates, and I just say this because I'm feeling nostalgic when things that you propose are then revised 16 years later. I don't know how I feel about that, but I am supportive of this, and thank you to staff for bringing it forward and the planning board for supporting it. Oh, and if anyone wants to see the PowerPoint, being a digital pack rat, I have it.
Ready to vote this now? All right. Member Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mike Linehan, Precinct 6. Is there a limit on how many spaces or what percentage of the otherwise required spaces can be bought out in this manner? If you need 20 spaces and somebody's willing to come up with a $400,000, but they have a $5 million building, is that a possibility?
To the member's question.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I do not believe that there is a maximum that you could buy out, but it would be a matter of how many is the applicant willing to pay for. But this is also reviewed by the planning board, so it's not just an automatic. They have to approve it.
Second question. When there's a zoning, and I think some of our zoning now allows fewer parking spaces because they're close to the train station. And so somebody goes in for a development with one of these reduced number required spaces and then buys more spaces out
is that allowed?
To the member's question.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, it would be allowed, but again, the planning board would have to review and approve that. It wouldn't be an automatic.
Thank you. No debate.
Further debate? Yes, sir.
Stephen Owens, Precinct 7. I swear it'll be a quick question. If we vote this down, if we don't have records of the 3% being voted to not happen, does that mean that it would then basically the fees would instead be around the $25,000 that 3% per year would have done?
Yeah. To the member's question.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I almost would defer to council because what's reflected in the zoning bylaw is one thing and what the records show is another thing.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ms. North?
Yeah, I mean, under the strict language of the bylaw, if this isn't changed, then the fee would increase 3% each
Right.
year unless the planning board, has a hearing and says no. So it would, where that would land, I can't speculate.
Okay, thank you. I was just doing the math, and 3% per fiscal year per 2008 would be about $25,000 now. So I was just curious what would happen if we turn this down. So thank you.
Yeah. Further debate on the matter? Seeing none, we'll vote this at this time. Requires a 2/3 vote. Please vote at this time. Voting is closed. The tally of the vote is 97 yes, 4 no, 3 abstain. We will skip 23 as per your earlier vote. Next article will be 24, beginning on page 158. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Mr. Moderator, this is another one where it's listed in here as motion A and B, but actually we voted it as all one, and I did check the minutes. We voted this one as all one as well. So do you want to proceed as the same as the last one?
Well, how are you, at this point, how are you making the motion?
Okay.
We now can catch it.
Great. All right. So the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 24 as printed on pages 158 and 159 with the exception of the words motion A and motion B. And I so move.
There you go.
Second.
Everybody see what happened? Good. Speak to the matter.
All right.
Ms. Loomis.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, Amanda Loomis, Director of Community Economic Development. So the background of this one is this article had previously been brought forward at 2 previous town meetings by a single landowner. In that time, they did withdraw the article, but moving forward, the planning board had reviewed the case. They also conducted a site visit to really determine what was happening out in the area. So what we were seeing was a mixture of residential and commercial along the corridor, which is known as North Main Street, right above the commuter rail, which is Pizza Plus, Stone's Auto. There's 2 residential buildings behind, and then there's 2 residential, and then what was formerly the Natick Appliance Store. So the objective is to actually rezone this area for a mixed use, which would be a combination of residential or commercial or both. Reduce the number of split zone parcels, which I'll show you in a second. Decrease non-conforming properties. Promote the reinvestment or redevelopment into these parcels that serve as a gateway approaching Natick Center from the north traveling in. So what we're doing is rezoning these parcels to the Center Gateway zoning district, which was a zoning district that we created back in the spring of 2023. Sorry, next slide. So what we are looking at is a area. You can see the tracks to the south of what is orange. That is Stone's Plaza. There is a little triangle that you can kind of see behind Stone's. That's actually owned by the town, so we're rezoning that as well. Then we have Stone's Auto. To the west of Stone's Auto, there are 2 duplexes, currently residential. And then if you cross Cochituate and you head north on North Main Street, you have 2 residential dwellings between 2 to 3 units each. And then you have what was formerly the Natick Appliance Store, which is a yellow building. As you can see in the picture at the below, these parcels are actually split zoned. Some of them are RG and Industrial 2. And then the other parcels that are Stones and Pizza Plus, those are actually in the downtown mixed use. So what we're doing is taking this whole area and rezoning it as the Center Gateway. This does not touch the Hoop Overlay District. That will remain intact. The next slide would be just the area that we are rezoning, which does require a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for the first floor of a structure. Oh, perfect. All right. So the Center Gateway right here. So what you can see is we are going to have to amend the zoning bylaw, Roman numeral 3EE2F, to include North Main Street into the list. What that does is require a portion of the first floor to be commercial, and then the remainder can be residential if it wants to be a mixed use. But then we also have to change the zoning map.
Okay.
Cool.
I can see the map, you can't.
All right. And then the last slide would have been just that this is supported by Natick 2030, which is the town's master plan. Chapter 3, land use, zoning and community character. Goal 5, to enhance the gateways into Natick Center and the town through a program to create the redevelopment properties around Natick Center and key gateways into town.
Good. Great. We debate on the matter. We're going to have to rely on the motion as it appears in the book. How about that? The gremlins up in the control room. He's going to go check it now, but we're not going to stop and wait for that. The motion is as it appears in the book with those 2 exclusions, the motion A and motion B. Any debate on the matter? It's up for the moment. Seeing none. We'll vote on this matter now. One motion, 2/3 vote. I think that's how I staged it with you anyway. Ooh, please vote on the matter now. I think I'm going to have this green glob in my left eye driving home tonight. Voting is closed. Matter prevails by a 2/3 vote, 97 yes, 2 no, and 1 abstain. Next order of business is Article 25. Mr. Jacobs, as a Finance Committee, you have a recommendation on Article 25.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 25 as printed on page 162 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move.
Second.
I can hear you talking. So Jacobs moved them and seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. Ms. Loomis.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, Amanda Loomis, Director of Community Economic Development. So what this article proposes to do is a zoning map cleanup, basically. So the parcel that we are looking at is 5 Commonwealth Road, and that is the office building that is directly across from TJX headquarters to the east of Margaritas, and between Margaritas and this parcel is the Cochituate Rail Trail. So what we are looking to do is rezone it to be like the other commercial uses. What we do know about this parcel is between 1949 and 1984, it was occupied for a gas station. It was owned by the rail company. There were other buildings on it that might have been used for offices. In 1985, there were permits gained. Somehow we are unable to find them, but the 4-story office structure was constructed. So this is just kind of orienting you on where the parcel is. But Article 25 allows for the existing use of the office to conform to and consistent with the other abutting properties. So basically, we're just trying to align this property with the abutting uses. So if you flip to the next slide. This area is actually right along the Cochituate Rail Trail. So you'll see the Home Depot and then the TJX headquarters. The blue line is the Cochituate Rail Trail. What we are proposing to do is rezone this parcel, which is zoned residential, into industrial 2, and then also pull it into the RC, or Regional Center Overlay District. So currently this parcel is zoned single-family zoning, but yet has a commercial structure on it, even though the use since 1949 had been commercial in nature. So this is really just a cleanup. We are not proposing to rezone the Cochituate Rail Trail. That remains residential. I know that was a topic previously. And everything to the east of this parcel is DCR and Lake Cochituate land, which we are not rezoning either.
Okay.
And then the next slide is just Natick 2030, just kind of does touch on these different types of items, and so does the Golden Triangle Plan. We are currently in efforts of looking at the Golden Triangle, so we'll see other things later, but this is just a cleanup at this time.
Great. Debate on the matter before you. Member Evans?
Thank you, Terry Evans, Precinct 7, member of the Planning Board. Just to supplement Ms. Loomis's excellent presentation, the office building that is referenced was actually built on a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals at the time.
Member Griesmer?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul Griesmer, Precinct 7. If we could go back to the map for a moment. So this property, 5 Commonwealth Road, is a 4-story office building. So a question is, office is not allowed in RSA. This was built on a use variance, and it would have to comply with the use variance. We rezone this to IN2. It won't comply with IN2 because it doesn't have enough land. Which zoning will govern?
so it'll still be out of compliance. It can't comply with, to be IN2. Would it still have to comply with its variance? And that the ZBA would actually be the authority with any, changes or modifications within the context of that variance?
To the member's question?
So the variance exists if it is able to be found. I do not have a copy of the variance, so I cannot tell you exactly what the variance states. But with that being said, yes, the parcel is non-conforming today, and it is non-conforming tomorrow dimensionally. With the Industrial 2 and the RC Overlay District, the office building is conforming use because an office use is allowed in the RC Overlay and the Industrial 2. But if they were to raise this structure, they would need to seek dimensional variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals because the lot is pre-existing non-conforming dimensionally, but the use is allowed.
No, I understand that. The office uses would be allowed under IN2 and also under RC, but we have to comply with everything in the use table, and there's not enough land here for that. So it would be, is this just to like clean up the map without any real substantive effect to this property?
That is exactly, through you, Mr. Moderator,
Yeah.
that is exactly what we're trying to do, is just
All right, thank you.
clean it up.
That clarifies it. Thank you.
Further debate on the matter before you under Article 25? Seeing none, we'll vote this at this time. Does require a 2/3 vote. Please vote on this matter at this time. Voting is closed. $90 yes, 2 no, 1 abstain. We have but one more article you can act on tonight, and that's Article 26. Mr. Jacobs, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation under Article 26?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Finance Committee recommends favorable action on the subject matter of Article 26 as printed on page 164 of the Finance Committee recommendation book, and I so move. And just to note, this one requires a majority vote.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jacobs, seconded by Mr. Gillenwater. Ms. Rotundi, welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Hi, town meeting members. I will try to keep this as brief as possible, as I know everyone is probably looking forward to going home. My name is Claire Rundelli. I'm the town's conservation agent and environmental planner working in the Community and Economic Development Department. You guys have seen my face a few times before for similar styles of articles, but I'm here before you tonight to discuss a small amendment to Article 79, which is the town's local wetlands protection bylaw. Next slide. So on average, the Natick Conservation Commission issues 30 to 40 permits per year. The majority of these permits are issued under both the state wetlands regulations, 310 CMR 10.0, and also the town's local wetlands protection bylaw. Under the town's local wetlands protection bylaw, the commission holds more stringent buffer zones within the state-described 100-foot buffer zone from the edge of wetland resource areas, as well as additional protections for vernal pools that are not found under the state regulations. In 2023, roughly 9 out of the 33 permits, and these are orders of conditions and determinations of applicability, issued by the Conservation Commission, included tree removal. Most of these projects included minor tree removal, 1 to 2 trees, though some tree removal projects were significant, over 10 healthy trees proposed to be removed. The Commission also issued 3 violation notices to residents who removed trees without a proper permitting or authorization under the wetlands regulations. Town meeting last spring voted to approve similar language in the town's stormwater management and erosion control bylaw, Article 79A, and given significant public interest in tree protection, felt that it was an appropriate time to discuss adding this into our wetlands bylaw language as well. Next slide. So the proposed amendment in the bylaw is an addition to Section 6 of the bylaw, adding Section 6.4, tree replacement, which would require healthy trees over 6 caliper inches within the 100-foot buffer zone be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio unless otherwise allowed, and that healthy trees over 6 caliper inches within the no disturbance and no build zones, which are those more restrictive buffers within that 100-foot buffer, at a 1-to-2 ratio, so 1 tree removed, 2 replacement trees provided, unless otherwise allowed by by permits. The Commission's no disturbance zone extends 25 feet from the boundary of wetlands, and the no build zone extends another 15 feet beyond that, so a total of 40 feet from the wetlands buffer zone. The majority of the projects that the Commission reviews are outside of these buffers to begin with, though there are a number of lots that were constructed prior to these requirements being in place that do occasionally have to do work within these buffers. Next slide. So there are a number of reasons that we're looking to propose this amendment. The Commission has been requiring tree replacement as a policy through conditions on the permits issued for many years, because trees within the wetlands jurisdiction do contribute to the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. We hope that this language would allow for applicants to be aware of and address tree replacement in their permit applications rather than in discussions with the Conservation Commission, thereby hopefully reducing the amount of time applicants are spending before the board. And that I just want to make very clear that this language will not increase permitting burdens on residents who are looking to do work under this bylaw. The removal of healthy trees within the buffer zone requires a permit regardless of the replacement that's being required. I, as staff, only have the administrative approval authority to remove trees that have been classified as an imminent hazard by a certified arborist or are dead. So there's no additional permitting burden on applicants with this restriction. Next slide. And finally, just a little bit about why this is important. We have seen a lot of public interest in the last year or so about tree preservation here in town. Trees are a wonderful resource to our community. Not only do they store carbon, they also take up stormwater, reduce carbon emissions, and they provide wildlife habitat, which is the key interest in regards to the wetlands protection regulations. I included this great little chart here just to really demonstrate the importance of mature trees, which is why by putting this requirement in place, we're hoping that developers or homeowners maybe will think twice about removing mature trees that don't necessarily need to be removed, and that those trees are appropriately replaced if they do need to be removed. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Very good. Debate on the matter. Member Walschlager.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Linda Walschlager, Precinct 7, also member of the Select Board. Was there any consideration under tree replacement to require a native tree?
So the Commission already requires only native species be planted within wetlands jurisdiction. That is a policy of the Commission, is also a requirement under the stormwater bylaw regulations.
All right, thank you.
Would you bring the microphone down forward, please?
Good evening, Victoria Grafflin, Precinct 5, for debate, not a question. Is that okay, Mr. Moderator? I just want to speak in favor of this change. I think the presentation says pretty much everything, but I guess, you know, the statement about the public noticing more and more mature tree loss really resonates, and I know it resonates with many people that I've been talking to lately. And our mature tree canopy can't be replaced quickly. So it's vital that we do, as a community, whatever we can. And this seems like a very reasonable proposition to at least mitigate, even if not perfectly, that kind of tree loss for healthy trees in particular. So I urge the members to please vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Further debate? Mr. Ostroff?
Josh Ostroff, Precinct 6. It's clear that the conservation, a question. It seems that this is within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission because it's relating to the wetlands protection area. If one wanted to amp up our protection of trees for other jurisdictions, what would be the mechanism for doing that? If I could be allowed the question.
Through
Fair
you,
question.
Mr. Moderator.
Fair
So
question.
the Conservation Commission has heard the public interest in protecting our town's mature tree canopy and is currently in the process of discussing the drafting of a tree protection bylaw. We are in the very early stages of this. I would definitely encourage anyone who's interested to attend the May 16th Conservation Commission meeting, which will be the first public meeting at which a potential bylaw development will be discussed. But as I said, we are in very early stages, but a tree preservation or tree protection bylaw could be a method to protect tree canopy outside of the limits of the Commission's jurisdiction, both under the stormwater bylaw and the wetlands bylaw.
Thank you. Mr. Poliandri?
Very quickly, Simon Poliandri, Precinct 6. A quick question. When it's a replacement, does that mean, a clarification, does that mean that the tree needs to be replaced anywhere in the town or on the same property?
So
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. The tree would need to be replaced on the property within the wetlands jurisdiction on that lot.
Okay, thank you.
Member Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. He just asked my first question. Mike Linehan, Precinct 6. The second question is, does the tree type have to be, does the tree type and size and/or size have to be the same?
So generally, we do not require applicants to replace trees that are the same size as those that are removed. Generally, trees do best when transplanted between a size of 2 to 4 inches, so the Commission generally requires replacement based on the specifics of the project that they're reviewing.
Okay. But does it have to be the same type?
It does not. As long as it's a native species, it does not need to be the exact same type of tree that's
Thank you.
being removed.
No further questions, no debate.
Let's vote this now. I don't see anybody else standing. Good. It requires a majority vote. Please vote on this matter now.
That's his job.
Voting is closed. Tally of the vote is 84 yes, 3 no, 1 abstain. The only motion I'll accept is adjournment. Mr. Grady?
Alan Grady, Precinct 3, motion to adjourn.
Second. by many of you. Mr. Awkward for the record. How's that? All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed, see you. We'll see you next Thursday night at 7:30.